So what does the Spirit do? The Spirit is sent, the Spirit walks alongside. The Spirit convicts of sin, convicts of righteousness, and convicts of judgment. Now let me stop right here. Let's look real close. Did you notice that none of those things are in our job description? It's not our job to convict of sin. It's not our job to convict of righteousness. It's not our job to convict of judgment. And some of you need to hear that because you're wearing your friends out, trying to make them do right. Not your job, not my job. What's our job? Our job is witness. The word martyr, comes from that word witness. Our job is to tell what Jesus is doing in our life. Our job is to bear witness of how he continues to work in our life. Let the Spirit take that testimony and then work in the other person's life. We're the witness, not the judge. Don't get those roles confused. Convicts of sin. It is the Spirit that tells you that you're doing wrong. Now understand, some of you will say, well, I've learned to listen to my conscience. I'm not talking about your conscience. Your conscience is that moral part of you that we have trained. I've trained my conscience. You've trained your conscience. It's to alert you of those things that may be wrong in our culture. But don't trust the conscience. Understand, we've trained it. I've trained my conscience to understand that 3 Oreos are not that bad. Right? 6 or 7, that's sin. I understand that. 3, not bad. In fact, I can eat 3 Oreos. I actually feel pretty good. That's my conscience. That's the way I've learned to think. Now, it's not right, but I feel pretty good about it. Now, you think about the things in your life that you now accept as normal because it's what you've seen on television. It's what you've seen in the movies. It's what you've heard a celebrity tell you is okay. And now you have retrained your conscience to think that what was once wrong is now okay. The Spirit will convict you of when you're doing sin. When you're doing things, doesn't matter what the world says, that Jesus says are wrong. And they're wrong because they hurt you, they hurt me. That's why you're convicted. That's why you're warned. So you won't keep doing those things that hurt you. You're convicted of righteousness. Now, who needs to be convicted of righteousness? Right? I think righteousness needs to be celebrated. I did something right, high five. It's a carpentry term. I've told you this before. The plumb line is put up, and where the board or the building does not line up with the plumb line, then the builder, the carpenter, does what he needs to do, does what she needs to do to make sure that the building lines up with the plumb line. So if you have a board that is put in crooked, you go over to the board and you hammer it until it lines up with the plumb line. Now, if you're the board being hammered, that's not a pleasant experience. Okay? But the Spirit convicts you of righteousness. What does that mean? The Spirit holds up the line, the plumb line of our faith. The model of our faith is Jesus Christ. He holds up the person of Jesus and then puts your life up next to that model. And where your life and my life doesn't match up to the model of Jesus, he convicts us of righteousness. He hammers us into place. Like I say, sometimes that's not a pleasant experience. But that's what the Spirit does, convicts us of judgment. Sometimes we don't think there are consequences, do we? We can do what we want to do. Jesus will forgive us. No big deal. And sometimes if we do something and the lightning doesn't strike us, we think we have gotten away with it. But sin carries its own punishment, and when you commit the sin, it begins to work through the machinery, the process, until it comes back and the judgment comes. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a person sows, that will they also reap. The things of this world are judged. They're condemned. It's just a matter of time. Did you notice that Jesus said, I haven't had time, you haven't been able to hear everything I wanted to tell you? It's as if there's a volume 2, a volume 3, another episode of the movie that we haven't been able to see. What was it about the disciples? Well, what Jesus is talking about is a thing we call capacity. They didn't have the ability to hear everything he wanted to tell them. They didn't have the capacity to understand.